You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Great. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the October board meeting of Empire State Development Corp. And great to see everybody in person for only the second time. And I'm meeting people for the first time in person since everything's been on Zoom for a while. And since not everybody knows everybody, let's go around the table before we get started with our agenda. And again, I'll start with Mike to my right here.
Michael Rosen.
I'm John Wong with the Asian American Business Development Center.
Rob Simpson with Center State CEO in Syracuse.
You want to?
Yeah, I'd like to see the staff as well.
Good morning, Kevin Eunice with ESD.
Noah Raymond with ESD.
Arden Sokolow, ESD.
Glendon McClary, ESD.
Wayman Trung, ESD.
Matt Ray, Treasurer of ESD.
Kathleen Mize, ESD.
Mayor Linda, Chief Financial Officer. Morning.
Lisa Hofheiser, Director of Compliance. Goldie Wexel, Acting General Counsel.
Rich Gagliano, ESD.
Benson Martin, Designee for the Department of Financial Services.
Hilda Rosario Escher from Acacia.
Very good. We have some staff. Ray?
Ray Salabreo, Small Business Division.
Joe Taswell, ESD.
Joe, how are you? And we have our staff who helps us run all these meetings, so Debbie and the team. Thank you all very much for what you guys do for us as well. So thank you, and with that roll call too, I'll recognize we have a quorum, and we have our President and CEO, Hope, joining us over the phone. I'll remind everybody that this meeting is live streamed, so public can be viewing us now or later. So mind your P's and Q's. Again, welcome everybody. For any staff members who are also joining us remotely, please have your phones on mute until we need you to speak. Let's see, the public was given an opportunity to both attend and to provide comments to us. I do not believe we have any members of the public here with us today. We did receive one public comment, and we'll address that as we get into the agenda. Let's see. All the directors were provided all written materials, voluminous written materials ahead of time, and which we've had a chance to review. I'll now ask if any directors have any potential conflict of interest with respect to any items on the agenda. Any board members wish to recuse themselves on anything?
Yeah, I have one, a startup company out of Ithaca that is being funded through New York Ventures. I do have a conflict with that one, so I'll recuse from that.
Very good. When we get to that item on the agenda, Rob, we'll note that, and thank you for that disclosure. Hearing no others, we'll continue on with the agenda. And our first item of business is the approval of minutes. We are now caught up. We have both the minutes from August 18th, 2022 and September 15th, 2022, which have been circulated. I will move them. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Hilda. Are there any comments, revisions, additions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Thank you. I'm now going to call on our great leader and president and CEO of ESD, Hope Knight, to make some president's report.
Thank you, Kevin, and good morning, Directors. I'm currently in Western New York for tonight's 43 North Awards, which is why I can't be with you in person this morning. The past month has been incredibly busy for the entire ESD team. Our Division of Minority and Women Business Development hosted the state's 12th annual MWBE Forum in Albany. As a part of the forum, Governor Hochul announced that our statewide MWBE utilization rate climbed to 30.64%, the highest in the nation. The governor also signed 3 pieces of legislation designed to strengthen the state's MWBE program. And earlier this week, Governor Hochul announced the launch of New York State's $150 million Workforce Development Grant Program. These grants will be administered by the Office of Strategic Workforce Development within ESD and are designed to meet New York's workforce needs, increase the capacity of workforce training providers, and position New Yorkers to fill high-quality, in-demand jobs. The past month also saw one of the biggest economic development announcements in New York history. My honor to join Governor Hochul, Senator Schumer, fellow Director Rob Simpson, and several of my ESD colleagues for the announcement that Micron had chosen Central New York for its next chip fab complex. This project is nothing short of transformative. Micron will invest up to $100 billion over the next 20 years to establish a chip fab campus in Clay outside of Syracuse. This is the largest manufacturing project investment in New York State history. It will create 9,000 jobs, and the project is expected to create another 40,000 jobs associated with it. Once complete, Micron's complex will include the nation's largest clean room space, the equivalent of nearly 40 football fields. The numbers are staggering, and we're already seeing the effects. Onondaga County officials are already working on plans to accommodate the housing needs of these employees. SUNY schools and community colleges in the region throughout the state are exploring ways that new and existing programs can meet Micron's workforce needs. Micron's decision was an endorsement of New York State and much of the work that we do here at ESD. This was truly a team effort between the New York State, the federal government, and the county and local leadership. And it was a team of people at ESD across different divisions and offices, led by Kevin Eunice, who helped make this possible. And I want to now turn this over to Kevin because I'd like for him to acknowledge the folks who are involved in this project.
All right, thank you, Hope. Good morning, Kevin Eunice with Empire State Development. I just, if you can indulge me for 1 minute, I have kind of a long list.
Kev, take a few minutes because you and the team did an amazing job, so take it whatever time you need.
Thank you, thank you. Obviously, none of this happens by itself. It's been, for some of us, our entire careers working towards a project like this, and to do it in such what I think of as a holistic way with the advancement of the Green Chips bill by Governor Hochul in the spring, which emphasizes community investment for these type of projects and sustainability. It's not just economic development, it's community development, it's sustainable, it's an amazing project with an amazing partner. So, but none of it happens with any one person. There's so many folks that are part of this. So I asked for folks, everybody to give me a list of people who've been involved in the project. So I just want to say their names and give them some recognition here.
Sure.
First of all, the team at Micron, I'm not going to name names here, but great team, really a pleasure to work with, and so proud of having their trust. I got to thank Governor Hochul and Hope Knight for their trust and confidence, those without which we wouldn't have got here. It's truly it's been such a long journey, and to have their support and trust was amazing, and I really appreciate it. I want to start with, in no particular order, just reading through a list of names of the folks who've been involved in this. I want to first start off with a former colleague, Kevin Hansen, who's no longer here. He left a couple weeks ago, but after we signed the agreement, Kevin has been amazing for many years, working as a friend and partner. Amanda Mays, who's also leaving us soon, but just I couldn't have done the last several months without her. Allison Kabir, who was so instrumental in the drafting of the green ships. Brad Austin in Intergov. The team in economics and research, Chris Christopher, Stephanie Kidzior, George Lapointe, Gavin Milray, Wachuda Pollock, Vince Rebashir, my partner, Gladys Simpson, who has tolerated me quite well for quite a long time. Thank you. And the legal team, Goldie Wexel and her team have just been amazing throughout this entire project, as they are with every project, but special shout out to Steve Golick, Jillian Kringle, and Tom Regan. The marketing and media services team led by Rich. Thank you, Rich, Mark Hamilton, Nicole Crozier, and Rich Machung for all of the amazing work that your team did. Public affairs, Matt, if I don't know if Matt's here, but Matt Gordon, Kristen DeVoe, long group list of folks here, Maura Bailey, Megan Rooney, Emily Majtowski, Matovich, Adam Matrowski, Ilea Eckhart, Jeff Januszewski. Jeff's been with ESD for 40 years-ish, and clearly this is a capstone for Jeff. Thanks to Jeff for all of his wisdom and guidance. Allison Argus, Sharon Edwards, Mark Reynolds, our semiconductor guru, and Jennifer Waters. From the tax incentives team, Benny DiBiase, Greg Mailman, Asha Middleton, Paul Tron alone for just all the input in so many different ways on community benefits and in any number of ways. To my colleague at DOL, Department of Labor, Scott Melvin, who was there to help us in so many ways the last few months. NYSERDA team led by Doreen Harris, Jamie Dickerson, Kevin Hale, Senator Schumer's office, my good friend and the amazing John Cardinal, Joe Nemi, the Onondaga County IDA folks, Bob Petrovich and Nate Stevens, NIPA. I know this is a long list, so I'm sorry, but
listen, it was an amazing job, so
Yeah.
keep on doing it. Take your time.
NIPA, Keith Hayes, and Richard Smith, thank you. My dear friend here on my left, Rob, who was there and has been a leader in Central New York for a very long time. We couldn't have done this. Just so much fun and learned a lot. Norris Blaine and the entire Center State team. I also just want to thank my wife, Erin, and and daughter, Eleanor. All of the guilt is internal. None of it externally imposed. So it's been a long year, and they've been amazing. So thanks to them, of course. Yeah.
Great. Is that it, Kev?
Yeah, that better be it.
You got it?
You
You didn't forget anybody? No.
I don't think I forgot anybody. Did I forget anybody?
No.
Of course, the county exec. I was focusing on people who aren't going to get a shout out maybe somewhere else or as often.
Fair enough.
So, but yeah, of course, the county executive and senator. Truly, without all of these folks, it doesn't happen. Without Senator Schumer, this project doesn't happen in the United States. Without Governor Hochul, it doesn't happen in New York. And without the county executive, it doesn't happen in Onondaga County, right? And so, so many folks, I'm sure I forgot many, but truly for some of us, this is a career. Some of us is a hell of a way to start a career. But it's exciting. I'm from Syracuse, so it's truly, it's as you can tell, it touches my heart and it means a lot to me. So,
Well, Kevin,
Thanks.
Congratulations to everybody you mentioned. Of course, Governor Hochul and to Hope, but every big play always has a quarterback, and we know you were a quarterback in this. So, with sincerity on behalf of all the board members and really the entire state, because this is a statewide success story. Happens to be in the Syracuse area, but this is just great news for the entire state. So thank you and congratulations to you for everything you did. I think we should give Kevin and the team a good. Good. Thank you, Kevin. Turn it back to Hope.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank the entire team for all their hard work in making this project a reality, and salute Micron for choosing to grow and expand in New York State. And with that, it concludes my presence report. Thank you.
Thank you, Hope. Do any board members have any questions for Hope? Hearing none, thank you. On a smaller scale, but just as exciting, I had the opportunity to be with Governor Hochul on Long Island for a really neat economic development announcement too, at the Feinstein Institute, the research arm of Northwell, which is New York State's largest employer, and it was for a bioelectronics medicine expansion of labs there, and really exciting, something that is going to really be like state-of-the-art healthcare in the future, bioelectronics medicine. It even sounds cool, but it is cool. And it's an expansion. Once at the REDC, we helped them out with starting their Rowan, and so the governor announced through the Long Island Investment Fund, an expansion of those labs in Nassau County, and again, opportunities to be creating new jobs and jobs of the future. So it's exciting. Governor Hochul is making great news throughout the state when it comes to economic development, and ESD is always right in the middle of it. So it's great to be a part of all that great news as we try to, grow our economy here. So thank you for that. Next up on the agenda, I had asked Hope, and she delivered, that rather than just going through our agenda all the time, the things that we legally have to do in terms of approvals, I thought it'd be good, especially since some of us are new here, and ESD is like such an amazing agency that does so many different things and good things, that we set aside 10 or 15 minutes to learn about a particular program or issue that needs to be addressed. So it not only educates the board, but that we get a better flavor of the professionalism of the staff and the team here at ESD. And so, the first item that, Hope, is putting on the agenda here is we're going to hear from Rich Gagliano, and he's our Senior VP of Marketing, to present an update on the I Love New York and the tourism marketing programs here. He's going to have a presentation. We'll have an opportunity for questions from the board members after that.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, directors. Thank you again for allowing me to be the first of these monthly overviews. So bear with me on the format. I try to keep it as brief as possible, but as informative as possible. Feel free to jump in with questions as I go through this. If I'm going too long, speed me up, play me off, or feel free to ask questions as we go. I don't have to say much about this. I Love New York. The I Love New York logo is one of the state's most well-known and valuable assets. It is an asset. Sometimes people lose sight of that. Although this was created in the 70s as part of the economic redevelopment of New York City to help them through those financial crises back then, it's come to stand for much more than that. It still will always have a connection to New York City, obviously, from Dwayne Reed bags and coffee cups, but we try to go much, much, much beyond that. We spent decades trying to go beyond that. We work very closely with New York City & Company, which is New York City's tourism promotion agency. So we work in lockstep with them to make sure all the work that we do at the state level is complementary and supports what they do. But to be clear that the I Love New York logo stands for New York State tourism. New York City is obviously a big part of that, but it's not just New York City. So we spent a lot of time, a lot of resources, again, over the past decades to make sure that that stands for more than just New York City. In terms of the importance of the tourism industry, again, a lot of topics these days are polarizing, but I think there's one topic that everyone would agree on, that tourism is just a key driver in the state. These are just some high-level numbers. Again, you'll see they're from fiscal year 1920, pre-COVID. We'll get into more of that in a second. But before COVID, the tourism industry was responsible for close to 1 million jobs, over 243 million total visits to the state, 65 billion plus in direct spend, and over 114 billion in total economic impact. And these are big numbers, and it's just important to never lose sight of the fact that tourism is an industry as much as manufacturing is or biotech. I don't want to say people don't think of tourism as an industry, but since we interact with it on a day-to-day basis, and hopefully it's fun, you lose sight of the fact that it is a key business driver of the state. It's really, really, really important and vital piece of the overall state economy. So just diving a little bit closer into some of those performance numbers. What this first chart shows is the growth that we've made over the past approximate. So you'll see of those key drivers, huge growth numbers over the past 10 years. 28% increase over the past decade in visitors, 41% increase in direct spending, 51% increase in overall economic impact, and 33% increase in employment. I should say, I meant to mention this earlier, in terms of employment, I believe tourism is the third largest employer in the state. So again, just important to keep those facts in mind. So huge growth. Again, that growth happened through lots of thoughtful, strategic funding support, marketing efforts. It didn't happen on its own. But then in the year of COVID, I won't dwell on that. We all know, the effects that COVID had on the state overall. But in an industry that relies on public gatherings, it doesn't make travel more difficult. Travel was almost impossible, especially with international travel being locked down from the city. So it wasn't, grocery shopping changed a little bit. And the way we lived our lives became a little bit difficult. Traveling was just, you couldn't do it. Businesses were closed, hotels were shut. It just was tough. So as you can see, the losses that we're seeing during that year were pretty significant. But just to point out, this is state overall. When you break it down by region, it varied a bit. New York City was hit the hardest, and they're still sort of dragging things in terms of international opened up this year as opposed to last year. New York City is a key driver of all these numbers, but certain regions, Adirondacks, we had problems of overcrowding. People were staying more local. People were looking for things to do, go to parks that were open. So what we saw was a lot of people who never hiked before, I'll try that hike. I'll put some Tevas on and just walk up there with bags of garbage, not realizing there's not bathrooms up there, and a 4-mile uphill hike is kind of hard. So, and there's not a lot of parking. So we were working with Parks Department and the local regions to make sure that we were sort of load balancing our marketing. And in the year of COVID, since most of these businesses were closed, we scaled back significantly on our marketing investment in terms of dollars. We went more towards unpaid, organic. We wanted to keep the brand top of mind and make sure that we were ready to go when things opened up again, but without spending marketing dollars inefficiently. We did some research also. We saw what a lot of other states and cities were doing, and it didn't really fit our needs. For example, Vegas had ads running during COVID saying, we're still here, we're ready for you when you come back. And we were thinking, do we need to do something to keep in the competitive voice? And we did research, and what our research showed was that while consumers couldn't travel, their consideration and their perceptions of New York State and traveling overall stayed where it was, if not increased. People wanted to go. The question was, when would they be ready to go? So, and they also didn't look at COVID as a New York specific or a tourism specific problem. It was just a worldwide global problem. So when things were off, when things were open and ready to go again, people were ready to travel. So we saved a lot of marketing dollars during that period. Like I said, did more organic work, and we geared up for the big comeback. Luckily, a year later, the vaccines were out, businesses started to open up again, and the first year back, we've made some significant inroads in terms of getting back to those peaks. Still not quite there yet. As you can see, one of the interesting stats is, if you can see the visitors, we're only 6% below our peak, but the spending is still a bit below that. What that indicates potentially, and this is just sort of theory, is that there are still more visitors coming, but we haven't gotten those long haul international people coming to New York City for a week with the high spend. So that's going to come back. We've been working with New York City and Company, and I think they are either on or ahead of forecast to get back to pre-COVID New York City peak numbers. So we're heading in the right direction. And some of the marketing initiatives that that I mentioned before, we didn't really need to change our strategy. This is the core principles of our marketing strategy pre-COVID. And again, like I said, our research indicated that there really wasn't much of a need to change that drastically. Our core target is the high family, like I just mentioned, the high family value, high family leisure travel target. those who travel with multiple people, stay for longer trips. It's not that we only focus on them, but that's our core. We've been getting a little bit more to different groups, but the core is still our long-term family travel. And our key target is within New York State and within our neighboring states. One of the things we did last year, but we're testing, we expanded a bit more into the international market. I'll talk more about that later. And we also ran some consumer marketing in the longer haul markets. So LA, San Francisco, Chicago. I'll show you some work that we did that was specific for that longer haul market, but that was something that we expanded into this year to be a bit more aggressive to help stem the comeback. From a messaging perspective, again, we try to promote travel to any specific destination. We promote the state, yet we use specific attractions as examples. For example, we would never spend state dollars to promote go to Legoland. Here's a coupon, 2-for-1. Legoland will manage their own marketing, but using Legoland as an example of some of the great attractions that the state has to offer, we will feature that. I'm using that as an example of something we featured most recently this summer. So we do focus on specific attractions, but we try to spread them out as much as possible to show the variety across the regions. And then from an integrated approach, we do not book hotels on our site. We don't drive plane tickets. We're not at the level of retail execution, but we do try to provide tools and information and content that help you plan your trip as efficiently as possible to quickly get you from our messaging and our environment out to an attraction to actually book a ticket and spend your dollars. And again, I won't go through all these in detail, but this is just an overview of how we measure our marketing performance. Like I said, since we do not book hotels and we can't track our success from a marketing perspective on specific revenue coming through the system, we have an in-market survey that surveys our core target audience throughout the year, and we measure levels of consideration, perception, awareness, just what people are feeling pre and post when experiencing our campaigns. And what this basically shows is when we put these surveys out, one of the questions we ask is, are you aware of our campaign or are you unaware of our campaign? We separate those respondents into two separate buckets and then continue to ask them the same series of questions. When you compare those in the aware of our campaign bucket to those in the unaware, there are significant differences in terms of consideration, enthusiasm, and some key drivers that our research shows are factors in people choosing a vacation destination. So what that basically says in sort of easiest terms is, those who experience our campaign have a higher consideration, therefore let's get more people exposed to the campaign. Way oversimplification for that, but that's one of the key measures of how we measure the effectiveness of our marketing. And the chart on the right shows we asked the same survey questions to all of our respondents about our neighboring competitive markets, and New York State and New York City consistently beat out our neighboring friends. So that's it for the numbers. Now, as a marketing person, one of the reasons I got into marketing was to do the fun stuff. So from here on in, no more charts, no more numbers. I want to show some high-level examples of some of the work that we do that result in those numbers. I'll get back to the TV in a second, but like I mentioned before, typically we would go out with statewide messaging. You'll see a slight difference where we feature more of the most iconic, well-known locations versus more of the specific things we have in state, and I'll play those in a minute. In addition to TV, I know TV is probably the most recognizable and spotlighted asset, but it's not just the television. We've got a huge digital footprint. We're on all the key social channels. We spend smart investments on paid search, which really identifies those hand raisers, people who are already looking for a vacation, searching. We then push them to our content versus the more visual elements that kind of drive you to our site and try to convince you to choose New York versus someone else. From a PR perspective, a lot of you recognize our friend Ross. Ross is our Vice President and Executive Director of Tourism. He's frequently the face of I Love New York, local news, quotes, interviews, articles. From a PR perspective, we've got a huge footprint there. I'm sorry, let me just play those spots right now. So the first spot I'm going to play is the one that was made for the long haul. We're just calling it Best Of. So again, it features more of the most iconic, well-known, beautiful visuals to try to get someone to book a trip, a long haul, book a flight.
There's something for everyone in New York State. Because some of the best experiences in New York also happen to be some of the best experiences in the world. Plan your New York State summer vacation at iloveny.com/summer.
And then the second spot, this is one that runs more, within state, within our drive market. So similar message, promoting the state overall, but using more, let's say, localized examples as opposed to the big marquee attractions.
It's time for an unforgettable New York summer.
It's a summertime thing. It's a summertime thing. Summertime thing. It's a summertime thing.
Find your summertime thing in New York. Plan it all at iloveny.com/summer.
So unfortunately, I have not experienced all of these yet, but I need to get up to the jet boats sometime soon. Real quick, from a digital perspective, again, obviously, ilovenewyork.com, our social footprint, digital promotions, the website is really the sort of centerpiece of all we talk about. The commercials do a good job of getting you, interested, piquing your interest, but then we drive you to the site where you've got the deep content on all the regions, all the different attractions, blog pages, 7 million people visit a year. I think that's a 60% increase from the year before. On social, we're on all the key channels. I don't know how many of you in this room are on TikTok. I'm learning about it myself, but we are on TikTok this year, so ask your kids to follow us. And we do a series of digital promotions each year too. We do things, we do a March Madness promotion where it's a bracketed type, March Madness, similar to the basketball tournament where we pit attractions against each other, but we have a bracket of like favorite beaches and favorite golf courses, and we come up with a winner. But our most popular digital promotion each year, right now we're in the middle of it, is the Fall Foliage Report. You can sign up, and we've got a weekly report that shows you where, the different levels of fall foliage from beginning to midpoint to peak. We update that on a weekly basis. We've got, I think, about 85 what we call leaf peepers, volunteers around the state who just call in their reports of what leaves are looking like. We compile that. It goes out each week. Last year, that promotion alone attracted 725,000 people, and this year, we're a few weeks into it. We've already got 500,000. And then from an experiential marketing perspective, what we do with experiential is try to bring our story and engagement out to you. So each summer we have what we call our mobile tour. We show up at various concerts, food festivals, street fairs, any kind of relevant event that's gathering a crowd, and we set up our I Love New York footprint where it's got interactive kiosks and games. You can win prizes. This is a picture of our presence this year at the State Fair, which was one of our most interactive and most digital-based attractions. We also do a similar tour, the LGBTQ tour, where it's, again, we set up this year with 6 different stops. That's a picture, I think, from the Buffalo one, where you could get your aura read. I don't know. People were lined up to engage with it. I think the governor actually did it at one of the stops. And then we also oversee the marketing aspects of the welcome centers. The 11 welcome centers across the region. They in total see about 2 million people a year. In those welcome centers, you can purchase Taste New York products and also engage with, I guess, a smaller scale from our footprint, but digital interactive kiosks, tourism information. And if you haven't seen them, they're really beautiful buildings. There's one in each region. And then behind the scenes, I would say last but not least, but one of the important drivers that we also oversee is support within the industry. So from a funding perspective, we have a number of funding and grant programs. Market New York and matching funds have been around for years. This year, we were just awarded over $40 million over the next 4 or 5 years, I think it is, from the federal EDA awards, 14 of which we're going to be giving out in sub-awards to different regions. From an international perspective, we've got 4 offices around the world. What we do is work with them to help create tourism packages. In the international markets, there's still that propensity for consumers to go to a travel agent and book a package trip. So we work with them to help create package tours. We're doing a little bit more with them now in terms of consumer marketing. And from an education and workforce standpoint, we are always talking to the industry, webinars on trends, opportunities, best practices, working very closely with DOL in terms of job workforce training programs, anything we can do to keep the industry, supported and alive, especially now. These are all not new post-COVID. These are all things that have been in place. We've just kind of amped it up a bit post-COVID to make sure the industry is coming back as strong as possible. And just a quick, not as long as list as Kevin's, but just a quick shout out to some key members on the team. We can't list everyone, but I just want to call out Ross Levi, who's our Vice President, Executive Director of Tourism, Anna Packman, our Vice President of Digital Marketing, Shanique Costin, our Vice President of Experiential Marketing, and Mark Hamilton and Rick McChung from our Creative Services. So if there's any questions?
Okay. Rich, that was terrific, thanks. And I'll start off with a couple, just on the second to last slide there. The 4 offices internationally, do we actually have ESD employees in those countries?
We outsource. It's, we partner with marketing agencies, marketing firms that specialize in international tourism. So we call it the I Love New York office, but it's essentially an outsource to an agency.
Got it. And then with your, say, 2019 stats, pre-COVID, when we had about 243 million visitors, is that something that can be broken down? Are most of the tourists in New York, New Yorkers doing staycations throughout different parts of the state? And international, what percentage of the tourism comes from international?
Yeah, we can break all that down. I can follow up and give you more.
I'm just curious. Most of our tourists, are they New Yorkers or are they from New Jersey and Connecticut?
Hey, Rich.
Yep.
To John Levi, hi Kevin and everyone.
Hi.
I would just mention that along that in-state, out-of-state split, generally New York is similar to other states where roughly 2/3 of our travel is within state, and then the rest of that is outside the state. That actually is sort of interesting and maybe counterintuitive. I think most people think that your job in tourism is to bring people exclusively from out of state, but a lot of time you're actually just competing with the couch. You're just trying to get people out into the world. So that's broadly speaking the split here in New York State, which is, like I said, similar to every other state as well.
That was helpful. Thanks, Levi. That's exactly what I was asking.
And that's what one of our, our core, strategic principles was. We market within state and within drive markets. And we really haven't done a ton pre-COVID in terms of the longer distance, but to sort of get things back as quickly as possible. We explored that this year. We're still looking at the results of how effective those longer haul messages were. And international, same thing. We didn't invest a ton internationally because up until this year, you physically couldn't travel international back into the city. So now that's opened up again, we're working with New York City and company to see, what the right mix is, not deviating too much from the strategy that we know has worked in the past, but how can we sort of bring things back as quick as possible by expanding that audience.
Great, thanks, Rich.
Just taking that one step further, of the roughly 1/3 of the visitors that come from out of state, what percentage of those are international? A larger proportion of the out of state visitation is the international travel.
Yeah, there's I don't know the percent. Ross, do you know the exact percentage of international versus domestic?
It's actually I don't know the actual percentages. It's on the small side, but it's actually about 1/3 of the tourist spend. So even though the number of visitors is small, the international is so important because 1/3 of the economic development, the money that is spent by tourism, comes from international. So it's a really important market for us.
Right, and that's where you can see probably in the return of visitors, there's not a lot of the international return, hence the bigger gap in revenue coming in. So
makes sense.
That's the thing. We get that family of 5 coming in from UK for 10 days in New York City. That's a lot more than a weekend camping. So
Great.
Thank you.
Any other board members have any questions for Rich?
Every time that someone asks me, where are you from? I say, I'm from New York. immediately they think that is New York City. They said, no, I'm from Rochester. Oh, where is that? So, do you have local offices in the different cities?
We work closely, as I Love New York, we work closely with the different regions and counties, and all the different regions and counties have what we call TPAs, tourism promotion agencies, and we work with them very closely. They work with us, whether it's grant support or before the industry support, but we work very closely with all those regions. Because that's the point, is to go beyond New York City, not to ignore New York City, especially now post-COVID when they need as much help as possible, but to let everyone know New York is not just New York City. And it's a good problem to have, that New York tourism does not rely on one type of activity. It's not just about outdoors, it's not just about culture, it's got all those things. It's got the best, we got the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Festivals, we got festivals in Rochester, we got the Lilac Festival, you're all invited. People come from all over.
Don't you have tulips too?
Yes.
I've been to the Tulip Festival of there.
Okay, so you're all invited, come to Rochester. And Syracuse too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
That's one of the things we try to do, is how do we, we have this wealth of content, how do we best serve it up to people? Because there's a lot of things out there that people may not know about. Everything from a small, a flower festival all the way up to Niagara Falls and everything in between. So how do we best target people, use our marketing dollars as efficiently and wisely as possible, all resulting in someone, whether it's a long weekend or a 15-day trip across the state.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Well, Rich, thanks to you and your team. That was very informative, and hope the board members
Yeah, that was great.
good with that. And so I asked Hope and Noah maybe to get on the next agenda. Whether if we don't have a real busy agenda, then we'll do that. If we have a real busy agenda, then we probably won't have a special presentation. But I asked also, because it's sort of a new obligation, not brand new, but relatively new because it's being expanded. We have a significant broadband program here and obligations, and so I've asked for a presentation on what it is that we do in that area and what it is that we are now challenged to do going forward, because I think some new responsibilities were put on us. And then if other board members have ideas for other items we should get briefed on at future meetings, let me or Hope know, and we'll get them on the agenda as well. All right? Okay, well, thank you. We're going to
Kill the, if you need to.
We're going to get back to our regular agenda now, and we're going to get to our corporate actions. And so first up, we have Wei Min Chong. She is our Assistant Vice President, Capital Access, and she is going to be discussing with us a state small business credit initiative.
Good morning, Chairman Law, esteemed board members, and Commissioner Knight, and members of the public. So I'm going to present the New York State Bonding Assistance Program 2, which is established pursuant to Section 16F of the UDC Act. It is one of the 6 state small business credit initiative programs approved by the board on August 18 of 2022. So the New York State Bonding Assistance Program will use $22 million of the federally allocated SSBCI funds for surety bond guarantees to participating sureties that will facilitate, in accordance with the program, bid bonds, payment and performance bonds for New York State small businesses and contractors working on any government-led project or publicly funded project statewide. The program is an expansion of another program that we had for the last 10 years. The program will provide guarantees of up to 30% or a maximum of $600,000, whichever is less, on the bond line or individual contract bid bonds and payment performance bonds. The New York State Bonding Assistance Program was the first in the nation surety bond assistance program, funded with SSBCI funds, launched in 2012. Since then, the state has secured 47 bonding limit capacity totaling $100 million to New York State contractors performing on New York State agency and New York City agency-led projects statewide, leveraging the initial $10 million of allocation. To date, the program has only a loss of less than 1% of the total portfolio. 75% of all bonding capacity went to support minority and women-owned businesses. The average aggregate bonding line capacity has approximately been $2 million, which allows for bonding to be provided to support bidding and execution of more than one job at a time for contractors. And the average guarantee provided to contractors is $423,000. The director are asked to find findings and determinations pursuant to Section 10G of the Act and authorize the implementation administration of the New York State Bonding Assistance Program 2 and authorize ESD to enter into agreements with surety companies for the funding of guarantees for small business surety bonds and to authorize the taking of all related action necessary to appropriate and effectuate the foregoing program. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Wayman, thank you very much. So essentially here we have federal dollars coming in. This, it's being, ESD is then using those monies to help shore up the credit of small businesses to help them access capital.
It's accessing particularly contractor surety bonds, not capital directly, but a bonding that is provided by a third-party surety bond company. So sort of like an enhanced insurance for projects. So when project goes bust, there is the third party that steps in to help.
To step in?
Yeah.
Very good. All right, it sounds good. So I will move that. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Do any board members have any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Wei, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Ray Salabarios. He's our Senior VP, Capital Access for the Division of Business and Technology, Small Business and Technology Development, and he has a New York State contractor financing program to brief us on. Ray?
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, board members. The New York State Contractor Financing Program will use $22 million in federally allocated state small business credit initiative funds to provide loan guarantees to incentivize lending intermediaries to increase access to capital to small contractors throughout the state of New York. The program will improve access to capital to help contractors successfully execute contracts from agencies or municipalities, again, throughout New York State. Participating lenders can use loan guarantees to issue government contract-related loans, lines of credits, managed lines of credits, so that they will otherwise not underwrite. Eligible lenders, the program funds solely will be used for the purpose of loan portfolio insurance and will allow eligible lenders to use the funds for default losses on those eligible loans. Eligible loans will be used for contract project deployment, construction loans, managed payables and receivables, and general working capital for projects throughout New York State. Application for the program is expected to be made to CDFIs, banks, and credit unions on or about November 1st using the contract reporter. Program lenders will be allocated funding for the program, loan guarantees based on their anticipated need, their historical ability to utilize the program funds, and the ability to offer contract financing that historically will be unavailable to small contractors throughout the state of New York. The directors are requested to authorize the implementation and administration of the program and authorize the execution of loan guarantees and authorize the taking of related actions. Thank you. I'm ready to answer any questions as needed.
Thank you, Ray. So again, essentially, we have federal monies coming in. ESD is going to manage that and help small businesses with these loan guarantees.
Right. What we want to do is make sure that with the tremendous amount of construction work going on in New York State, that we provide access to capital for these small businesses to participate in this program, specifically the JetBlue renovation, which is going on now, it's a $6 billion project. And we want to make sure that small contractors have the ability to actually go in, win a contract, and have the working capital needed to fulfill the contracts.
Got it. Very good. All right, sounds good. So I'll move that. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions for Ray?
Yes, how much can a business get?
Well, depending on the contract, right? So it depends on lender. We're going to guarantee up to $500,000, but that's not the limit they can get. They can get more than $500,000, but our money will only guarantee up to the $500,000 number.
Any other questions? All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ray. Okay, we're now going to get to our project section. And we have a bunch of projects starting off in the Western New York region. And we have up Paul Tronelone. He's our VP of Planning and Policy for Western New York, and he has 5 items for us.
Good morning, Chairman Law, Commissioners, and Directors. As I said, 5 items for your consideration today. The first of them involves the adoption of an amended general project plan and an additional grant of $2,211,500 to the Buffalo Niagara Freedom Station Coalition, a not-for-profit organization that owns the National Register listed Michigan Street Baptist Church, the city's oldest African-American church and one of the anchor institutions in the Michigan Street African-American Heritage Corridor. The grant will build upon a previously awarded $900,000 grant for structural stabilization at the church, and it will cover the construction of a 2,000 square foot annex addition that will house ADA access to the sanctuary space, ADA accessible restrooms, meeting and interpretive space, along with associated site and landscape improvements. The second item is for a mixed-use historic restoration project immediately adjacent to the Michigan Street Baptist Church at 163-173 Broadway in East Buffalo. Directors are asked to adopt a general project plan and provide a grant of $450,000 to Michigan Broadway LLC towards a roughly $5.8 million restoration of the commercial block there. The grant's under round 6 of the Western New York REDC's consolidated funding application process and will be coupled with a previously approved grant under the ESD's East Side Corridor Economic Development Fund. The 38,000 square foot building was literally saved from demolition several years ago, and the restoration effort includes 18 affordable apartments and 8,500 square feet of street level commercial space, and the building is now called Nash Lofts. The Buffalo chapter of the NAACP, which was originally founded in the Heritage Corridor, has now returned as the inaugural tenant of one of those commercial storefronts. Third item, for the directors are asked to approve a working capital grant of $5 million to the Edison Welding Institute, or EWI, which collaborated with ESD to create and operated what's called Buffalo Manufacturing Works, which is the sister tenant of the Northland Workforce Training Center at 683 Northland Avenue in East Buffalo. The state's strategic plan for the Buffalo Regional Innovation Cluster concluded that advanced manufacturing continues to show considerable opportunities for Western New York. Buffalo Manufacturing Works was created to provide consulting support to small and medium-sized manufacturers to help them implement innovations to facilitate their success. Now, EWI's primary effort to this date has been what's called the SHIFT program, which provided guidance and consulting to local manufacturing to identify achievable methods for innovation. The subject grant will fund what we're calling a SHIFT 2.0 program designed to support those companies to actually implement such technologies, including digital automation, artificial intelligence, cloud technologies, and collaborative robots or cobot applications. The program would engage at least 90 companies with the goal of having 30 of them actually implement automation innovations. And I should note that this ESD grant will serve as the required non-federal match for a component of ESD's recently awarded $25 million grant under the U.S. Economic Development Administration's Build Back Better Regional Challenge. Under that grant, $7 million in federal funds will further expand the breadth and reach of this initiative. The fourth item is for the directors to approve a $3 million grant to the New York State chapter of the not-for-profit Local Initiatives Support Corporation, or LISC, to fund and administer a small business working capital grant program in the East Buffalo neighborhood where the May 14th racially motivated attack occurred at a Top supermarket there. Governor Hochul included the program as part of her Juneteenth announcement of $50 million in assistance in East Buffalo in response to that attack. In administering the program, LISC would offer small businesses in that area grants ranging from $5,000 to $50,000 based upon the business's documented annual gross sales to help defray the cost of various operating expenses. Now, LISC would be responsible for advertisements and outreach, creation of an online application, processing, screening, and award of grants, and electronic disbursement of funds, and program monitoring and reporting to ESD. Finally, the last item, the directors are asked to adopt a general project plan and provide a 2.5% 30-year loan of $500,000 to Musical Suites LLC, an LLC created by Snyder Development of Buffalo to help support a $5.8 million historic reuse of the former community music school in the Elmwood Village District on Buffalo's west side. The loan is part of round 4 of the transit-oriented development portion of the Better Buffalo Fund, which was created in 2014 to help advance dense infill projects in proximity to transit lines. The 18,000 square foot project created 22 one-bedroom apartments and commercial office space. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions you might have on those 5 items.
Thank you very much, Paul. A lot going on in Buffalo. So, Goldie, I see 2 different things here. Can we do all 5 of these in one vote, or do we have to do a separate vote for each item?
We should do a separate.
Hello?
vote. We should do a separate vote. We can talk later about if we want to have the board authorize a different structure.
Yes, because I'm still not certain why we could do a global resolution for all the administrative action at the end, but we can't do global resolution for when we have
There
a
was
bunch of
prior
things.
board action.
Yeah, there was
or you.
authorization.
What did that board know? No. So, no.
For next month, we can work on changing that.
That's something that, we'll
Yeah.
we'll discuss offline, and, if we could streamline things, we'll do that. But since our council is advising us to do 5 separate votes on the 5 different Buffalo projects, that's what we will do. Starting, well, first, let me just ask, we have all the materials that were, sent to us on our director's book for all these items, but does anybody have any questions while we still have Paul on the line? Okay, hearing none, then we'll go right to the votes for item number 2A for the Niagara Freedom Station project. I will move that. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. For the Broadway, Michigan mixed-use project, item 2B, I will move it. Is there a second? By Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Next up is the Buffalo Regional Innovation Cluster, item 2C. I will move it. Is there a second?
Second.
By John, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Item 2D for the Small Business Working Capital Grant Program for LISC. I will move that. Is there a second? By John. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And lastly, item 2E for the Regional Innovation Mixed Use from the Musical School Program with the Better Buffalo Fund. I will move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Benson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Paul. Let's move on to the Finger Lakes region where we have Vinny Esposito.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, directors. One item for you this month. You're asked to approve a $1 million capital grant to the Seneca Park Zoo Society from the Regional Council Capital Fund Round 6. Seneca Park Zoo Society is the non-for-profit partner for the Seneca Park Zoo, which is the Monroe County-owned zoo in our region and our second largest tourist attraction. This grant continues to support the transformation and implementation of a multi-year master plan for the zoo. The primary element of this project that this grant went towards was the construction of a new centrally located trailside cafe and indoor dining facility to add to the amenities that the zoo offers its patrons. This project was $12 million, $400,000 in total. It was completed in July 22, and it is the second significant project we've supported of the master plan renovations happening at a zoo. And I should note that earlier this spring, Governor Hochul committed another $42 million to help complete that $121 million renovation at the zoo. I'd be happy to take any questions on the project, and I'd also like to introduce by phone with me today is our brand new Finger Lakes Regional Director, Laura Fox O'Sullivan, who started last week and will be taking over duties here in Rochester and presenting to the board in the future.
Good morning, everyone.
Right. Morning. Thank you, Vinny, and welcome, Laura. Vinny, question for you, or maybe somebody else on the team here. Have we invested, given grants to other zoos before, or is this our first zoo project?
We have done others. As I mentioned, we've done one other grant for this zoo in the recent past from the Regional Council. But I know we've supported the Buffalo Zoo, among others, in the recent past during the Regional Council process.
Very good. And Rich, I suspect this goes to help support our tourism efforts as well. Everybody likes taking their kids and grandkids to the zoo. I like going as well. All righty. So with that, I will move this. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions for Vinnie? Hearing none. We got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Vinnie. Next up, we have Jim Fail from our Central New York region. He's our Regional Director of ESD's Central New York region. Jim.
Good morning. This morning, the directors are being asked to approve an $800,000 grant on a $5.9 million project to J.M. Murray Center, which is a nonprofit organization located in Cortland, New York. It provides employment and vocational training to individuals with disabilities. The project involves the purchase of a vacant manufacturing facility and to renovate that facility. This will allow them to consolidate 3 divisions into this one location. This project retains 198 jobs and will create an additional 8 jobs. Currently, there are 200 employees at the facility, and the project is complete. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jim. Any questions for Jim? Hearing none, I will move this item. Is there a second? By Rob. Any other questions? Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Mohawk Valley Region. We got Allison Madmoon, and I was up in Oneida County over the weekend, and man, talk about the colors, it was amazing.
You reporting?
No, but it was beautiful, and I did see the Mohawk Visitor Center as well. That was beautiful as well. I've been to the Southern Tier Visitor Center as well, so I'm catching a lot of them, but very good. So, Allison, you're up.
Very good to hear, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. The directors are being asked to approve a capital grant of up to $750,000 for GSCB LLC from the Regional Council Capital Fund, Round 8. The grant supports a portion of the cost for construction and renovation of a 92,000 square foot historic structure that was once home to a cotton factory that employed hundreds of people in the early 1900s. This building has been sitting vacant for a number of years and is located in Utica's Central Business District across from the new MBHS Downtown Hospital. The renovations include approximately 70,000 square feet of residential space with 64 market rate units and 22,000 square feet of commercial space. The developer is currently in negotiations with a coffee shop, and a deli is located there as well. The project is consistent with the Mohawk Valley Regional Economic Development Council's strategy for downtown redevelopment. The CFA capital grant of $750,000 is 7% of the total project cost of $10,497,570. The project was completed in August of 2022, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Great. Allison, I have a question for you. The grant that we're giving, does that go for just the commercial aspects of this project, or does any of it go for the housing part of the project?
Just the commercial.
Got it. And I understand from prior briefings that we don't use ESD monies for housing here. Various mixed-use projects throughout the state. If we're going to get involved in that, it'll be for the non-housing components of those plans?
That's correct, yes.
Got it. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Allison? I will move it. Is there a second? So by Mike, second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Allison. We'll move down to the Southern Tier with Omar Sanders, our Director of Intergovernmental Affairs in ESD's Southern Tier region.
Good morning, board members. I have one project for the board's consideration today. This is a request to support renovations, facility upgrades, and the acquisition of machinery and equipment for the Raymond Corporation. The Raymond Corporation is a leading global provider of material handling products and intralogistic solutions that optimize operations using automation technologies. This renovation project includes 5 facilities at the project location in Green, New York, one of which is an employment development and wellness center. ESD assistance will allow the corporation to increase its productivity in manufacturing electronic forklift trucks and associated technology services. In 2019, the corporation received an incentive offer in the amount of $2 million through the Upstate Revitalization Initiative and Excelsior program. Total capital investments for the project is approximately $45 million, and the Raymond Corporation invested approximately $44.5 million in its own equity into the project. For the grant portion, the project will retain 1,387 full-time permanent employees and create 100 net new jobs. The Excelsior Award for this project will retain 1,387 jobs and create 75 jobs over 5 years. The company has already exceeded its job commitment, having created 531 new full-time jobs. This aligns with the Southern Tier RDC strategy that aims to prioritize advanced manufacturing as a key tradable sector in order to grow the regional economy. The company has completed the project as outlined in the agreed-upon project scope. Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Omar, over 1,000 employees, it sounds pretty large. Are these guys, is Raymond Corp one of the largest employers in the Southern Tier region?
Not so much in the entire Southern Tier region, but within that area, which is Shenango County, they are definitely one of the larger employers in that area of the region.
Got it. Yeah, it sounds like it is. Well, thank you. Any questions for Omar? All right, I'll move this item. Is there a second?
Second.
By John. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Omar. Let's move into the New York City region with Joe Taswell, our Regional Director for ESD here in New York City.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. This is a request to approve a $1 million grant to Henry Street Settlement in connection with the $5.1 million renovation and equipping of the former firehouse to house the organization's relocated Neighborhood Resource and Parent Center. The project was designated as a priority project by the New York City Regional Council in REDC Round 6 and is in alignment with the Council's opportunity agenda as well as workforce development and downtown revitalization strategies. Henry Street Settlement was founded in 1893 by social reformer Lillian Wald with a mission to open doors of opportunity to enrich lives and enhance human progress for Lower East Side residents and other New Yorkers through social services, arts, and healthcare programs. Today, Henry Street Settlement has 18 locations and 685 employees and offers more than 50 programs and wraparound services to people of all ages, including Meals on Wheels delivery, job readiness training, mental health counseling, and supportive housing. In 2017, Henry Street Settlement took possession of a vacant firehouse adjacent to its historic headquarters. The 7,000 square foot 3-story building had been empty since November 2001 when the FDNY relocated Engine Company 15 to 25 Pitt Street, which is about 5 blocks away. The building has been renamed the Dale Jones Birch Neighborhood Center, and Henry Street Settlement has restored the building's exterior, installed an elevator to make it ADA accessible, installed new HVAC system, and fitted out the building to create new office, meeting, and community space. The Neighborhood Resource Center will provide a wide array of free services to neighborhood residents, including screenings for benefit and income supports, food stamps, employment services, health insurance enrollment, and legal and financial services. In addition, an on-site parent center will offer supportive and educational group sessions. The organization has exceeded its job commitment of 15 retained jobs at the project location and currently has 27 employees working at the Neighborhood Resource Center itself. The project was completed in July 2020. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe? Hearing none, I will move this item. Is there a second? By Hilda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Joe. Okay, now continuing with the agenda, we do at the direction of projects. So Simone Bethune will lead us on these items.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. As a reminder, at the direction of grants, refer to the commitments listed in the New York State budget that enhance the state's communities through cultural, educational, research and development, and civic organizations. These projects originate from the governor or the New York State Assembly or Senate and ESD is named to administer the funding, ESD does not select the recipients of funding. Today, we are requesting board approval for a $670,000 local assistance award made available to the Research Foundation for SUNY Stony Brook University in the New York State budget fiscal year 2021-2022. At the direction of State Assemblyman Stephen C. Engelbright of the 4th District of the New York Assembly. Established in 1951, SBU is an educational corporation that administers externally funded contracts and grants for and on behalf of the State University of New York. SBU completed an ESD application in August 2022, which was subsequently reviewed by ESD staff and approved to move forward. Funding provided under this grant will support activities related to maintaining National Cancer Institute, NCI, designation for the Stony Brook Cancer Center. The National Cancer Institute has established constantly evolving guidelines that must be met in order for a center to achieve this status or seek renewal of existing status. These grant funds will support key recruitments and leadership positions that will allow for the expansion of the Cancer Prevention and Control Program, community outreach and engagement activities, and further development of both clinical and basic research programs. The grantee has initiated these programs and has met the required milestones to be eligible to seek board approval. Therefore, we request the board's authorization to make this grant. Thank you, and I can take any questions.
Thank you, Simone. Any questions for Simone? No. As you all know, I am the chairman of the Stony Brook University Council, so I'm disclosing that, but there's no need for me to recuse myself as we are not exercising any discretion here, and we're being directed by the legislature to pass through these funds. And so I will move it. Is there a second? Second. By Mike. Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Simone. Next up, was there a question? No. Next up, we have Clayton Besh. He's our Director of ESD's New York Innovation Venture Capital Fund for 2 items.
Thank you, Chairman. Clayton Besh. The New York Ventures would like to ask the board for authorization to make a follow-on investment of up to $300,000 in 8B finances, $3 million convertible note investment round, with the balance provided by other experienced investors. 8B Finance is a woman-led Dundee, New York startup, the first end-to-end solution for supporting African students to access and receive financing they need for an education at global universities. Of African students accepted at global universities, only 1 in 3 actually enroll, primarily because of lack of access to financing opportunities. 8B addresses this limitation with its platform, and universities and the countries they're in get access to a growing, large, diverse, and largely untapped market of students who often stay in their host countries post-graduation. The company is partnering with universities to support students in STEM fields who are already attending global universities, but may not have the financial support they need to complete their education, or, like the company's founder, would like to attend graduate programs that do not have funding available. The use of this round's capital will be used to develop the lending capacity, build the team, and further its strategic partnership with universities and employers. The second request, New York Ventures would like to ask the board for authorization to make a follow-on investment of up to $1 million in Dimensional Energy's $4 million Series Seed investment fund. Dimensional Energy is a sustainable fuel production company spun out of Ericsson Research Lab in Cornell University. Using proprietary reaction design, Dimensional Energy is commercializing a process for converting carbon dioxide into sustainable aviation fuel. Aviation fuel contributes over 1.2 billion tons of CO2 into the atmosphere each year, with aviation industry committed to a 50% reduction in the use of fossilized fuels in 2050. These sustainable aviation fuels, made from the conversion of CO2 fuel stocks, usually from industry sources, are emerging as one of the few stopgaps to achieve that goal. Dimensional Energy is based in Ithaca, New York, and is building pilot units in the United States and internationally. including one in the design stage in a partnership with the Seneca Nation in western New York State. The company's business model is to sell jet fuel directly to airlines, as well as licensing its technology to strategic partners. The use of this capital round is to be used to increase the team, build new demonstration plants, and complete R&D projects. As part of the due diligence process, the New York Ventures staff and the External Investment Advisory Committee evaluated the company's business plan and its growth prospects, as well as the terms of the investments outlined in Schedule A. As a result of that analysis, the fund staff and IAC both agree that the market opportunity and growth potential offered by these New York State companies warrant an investment, and we recommend its approval. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for Clay? All right. Thank you, Clay. We'll note Rob Simpson's recusal on the first item for 8B Finance, Inc. I will move that item. Is there a second by Michael? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. And let the record reflect Rob's abstention. Item number 2, Dimensional Energy, Inc. Any questions for Clay on that? I will move it. Is there a second? Second by Hilda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Clay.
Thank you.
All right, and last up is all of our administrative action items, and I think Goldie Wexel, our acting general counsel, will be presenting them. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Law. Good morning, directors. As a reminder, in order to help streamline our board meetings, we previously implemented an oral summary presentation process in connection with the administrative actions section of our agenda. And as noted by the chair, we will also take a look for future meetings and see if there are further steps we can take, additional steps we can take to streamline meetings. For now, focusing on the administrative actions, you have all received a full set of written descriptive materials for each of these items in your board materials. Rather than having individual oral presentations made on each, I will provide a brief summary of the items. At the conclusion of the summary, we will then entertain any comments or questions the directors may have. As noted, we did receive a public comment on items 5D and 5E, which was provided to the directors. The summaries that we have, which I will go into shortly, address the questions that were raised in the comment. Following my presentation and any questions, the chair will then call for a motion to approve the entire slate of administrative actions, items 5A through 5F. The administrative action items submitted for your consideration today and for which you have received written materials are summarized as follows. First, 5A, which is a Buffalo waterfront item. The directors are asked to approve the amendment of a relicensing settlement agreement with the New York Power Authority to accelerate NYPA payments to the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation. The accelerated funds will be used to support a number of ECHDC efforts and projects, including the Buffalo River Walk feasibility study, gateway building construction, bell slip enhancements, and substantial reconstruction of Wilkson Point. Next, 5B, is the Highline Moynihan Connector Civic Project. This item relates to the Highline Moynihan Connector Civic Project. The directors are being asked to approve entering into a maintenance and operation agreement for the Highline Moynihan Connector Bridge, which ESD will take ownership of when construction is complete in summer 2023. As detailed in the board materials, ESD staff has negotiated the terms of a proposed maintenance agreement with Friends of the Highline, the nonprofit that has maintained and operated the existing Highline on behalf of New York City since the park's inception in 2009. FHL is also an equity partner in construction of the Connector Bridge, contributing 1/5 of the total $50 million construction budget. FHL is well regarded for its work in managing the Highline, and it will be able to seamlessly and efficiently perform nearly identical work on the connector. If the directors approve this item, approval will also be required from the New York State Comptroller's Office. 5C is an item related to the Connect All office. With the director's approval, the Connect All office will extend its contract with HR&A Advisors, Inc. to amend the term, scope of work, and to increase the dollar amount. The contract has since been granted a no-cost extension through November 30th, 2022. The original contract term was July 5th, 2022 through September 24th, 2022, with an amount not to exceed $249,999. The requested contract amended term is through March 31st, 2023, with an amount not to exceed $500,000. Next up is 5D, authorization to amend a contract with the law offices of Donald Tobias for legal services and take related actions. Directors are requested to authorize the amendment of the existing contract with the law offices of Donald J. Tobias. The law offices of Donald J. Tobias provide legal services for litigation and workout matters related to ESD's loan and grant portfolio, such as loan modifications, loan defaults, grant amendments, and recapture of grant funds. As with any lender or grant-making institution with a large portfolio, circumstances arise that require a workout to modify the terms and conditions of assistance or the enforcement of ESD's legal rights in the event of default. Additionally, legal expertise is necessary to proactively assure that ESD loan and grant documents properly secure the public fund. This was one of the items for which we got a comment asking what specific types of litigation and workout matters are being covered here, as well as the board materials had noted that there was an increase and need for more services due to COVID, and there was a question about why COVID had resulted in that increase. And so, the answer is, in terms of litigation matters that this office assists with, it primarily is in connection with our loan and grants program, and in situations where a grantee or an entity that has received a loan is filing for bankruptcy, and we're a creditor and we need to be represented in those proceedings. Luckily, that does not happen that often. What's more frequent is we require the workout services to renegotiate terms of loans, and that's something that has increased due to COVID, just because companies have experienced interruptions in their revenue streams, causing them to need to renegotiate loans with us, and that's a big part of the work that this outside counsel is doing for us. The law offices of Donald Tobias provide specialized legal expertise in these areas. The amendments would extend the contract for an additional 3 years and increase the contract amount by an additional $250,000. The contract is paid for with corporate and borrower funds. Item 5E relates to the Pennsylvania Station Area Civic and Land Use Improvement Project. It's authorization, again, to amend a legal services contract with Bryant Cave Leighton Pazerner. Regarding the corporation's Penn Station Area Civic and Land Use Improvement Project with Brian Cave for legal services regarding land use and environmental issues, the directors are requested to authorize the amendment of the contract to extend the contract term through July 31st, 2025, and to increase the contract amount by $1 million for an aggregate contract amount of $2,450,000 plus out-of-pocket costs. Other than these changes, the contract remains unchanged. The contract continues to provide that it will be paid for in part from one or more ESD impressed accounts funded by one or more private developers.
And Goldie, the public comment that we received also asked a question on that item as well. Do you have an
Right,
answer?
yeah,
Do
and
you have
that,
an
the
answer as
question
well?
on that was about whether or not the amendment will continue to be partially paid for by cost-sharing agreements with developers, and the answer is yes.
Answer is yes. Thank you.
Item 5F, New York State MWBE Certification Assistance Program, which we call SuperCap. This is an authorization to amend our services contract with two entities that are providing services related to certification. R6 Catalyst LLC and Hofstra University Entrepreneurship Assistance Center. In December of 2020, ESD's Division of Minority and Women's Business Development received board approval to enter into contracts with Hofstra University and R6 Catalyst. to process at least 1,900 MWBE certification applications, which is 950 applications per contractor. As the contractors approach their application processing goals under the contract, ESD issued a request for proposals, which is currently out and published, for one or more contractors to continue this work. However, the division has determined that it would be advantageous to continue the current contractual relationship with the contractors and have each of them process additional certification applications while ESD completes the new competitive solicitation. The division is therefore requesting an amendment of the contract to permit the contractors to process additional applications during the amended contract term, which is a 4-month term with an option to go on for 2 additional months, so that we are sure that we are covering any potential gap between the time when we have the new contractor in place. I will now turn it back to our chair, who will call for any questions or comments you may have on any of these items before calling for a vote. We also have item-related staff on the line today as well to take any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Goldie. And thank you for, we may not be able to do it every time we get comments, especially if we get hundreds of them, but I think it shows we're being open and transparent. If we get a comment, we try to address it at the board meeting, so thank you for addressing the public comment that we got. Any comments or questions for Goldie?
Yeah. Goldie, just to be sure that I understand, so we are contracting out with Hofstra University to review the certifications, MWB certifications. Is that because we have too many and we can do it here, or?
Well, we do have a large volume coming in.
I know.
If there's project staff that want to add to what I say online, they can jump in. But this program has been in place for a couple of years now, and what they do is they do the first sort of phase of the review process of the applications to make sure the applications are complete, and to do, to sort of get everything in place, do an initial look over. It then goes back to the division for final decision on certification. But this helps us get through a larger number of applications.
Okay. So if I was submitting an application, for example, it would not come here, it would go to the university.
It would first come here, and then certain of them, I don't know if it's all, no, and I don't know if you have more insight or if there's anyone else. Oh, perfect. Sorry, didn't see you.
Yeah, it first comes to, Jim Willigleen, Vice President, Research Operations and Compliance within the division. It first comes to the division, and then it is shared with those partners.
And how long does it take for them to give it back to you?
It
Do you have
depends on the
an
complexity of the applications. We have many that can be done in less than a month, but it's also dependent on the accuracy of the workers and the complexity. So many of the ones that are with companies that are holding companies or more complex than just a sole proprietorship may take longer.
How long are we taking now to certify a business?
Again, it depends. It really depends on the type of business and the information that they provide.
What's the average?
I don't have an average number.
Okay.
But we do have a backlog, and Governor Hochul in her budget put resources in our budget for ESD to hire people to address that backlog. Isn't that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Part of it, the RFP that is part of that effort. The RFP that Goldie presented is part of that effort. The SuperCap partners have been with us for a few years, but a lot of the process is the back and forth. We get an application, it's missing documents, and so they help us make sure that when it comes back to the division, the applications are complete for more expedient. But we are absolutely bringing on more resources because it has become the volume is substantial, and the review process is rigorous.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, any other questions? All right, here we're allowed to do one global umbrella type of resolution, so I will move it. Is there a second?
Second.
By everybody. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Do any board members have any other business they'd like to raise at this point in time? Hearing none. Motion to adjourn. Second by Benson. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is adjourned. Thank you, staff, for another great job and your professionalism, and to Debbie and her team for getting us all the paperwork before the meeting. So have a nice weekend. We'll see you in November. We have a November meeting? We'll see you in November.
It's on Thanksgiving this year, right?
Thanks.
No, no.